Hare Krishna. Welcome to the summary of chapter 13. Kshetra, Kshetragya, Vibhaga Yoga. Nature, the enjoyer, and consciousness. So this is the transition phase of Bhagavad Gita. We are entering the wisdom section. This is where the Upanishad part of Bhagavad Gita starts. As you all know, the first 6 chapters deals with karma. Who are you? What is your role in the world? Tvam par vichara. How to perform your duties, thinking of the Lord. And then the next 6 chapters are, who is this Lord for whom you should perform the duties? Tat pad vichara. Who is the divine? What is the nature of the Lord? What does he do? How does he present in all forms in every aspect of the universe? We learned this in Bhakti Yoga section. In the last chapter, Krishna gave 40 odd qualities of bhakta. And he said, those who follow these qualities, they become very dear to me. Krishna also clarified, I exist in the formless as well as in the form. This chapter is called Kshetra, Kshetragya, Vibhaga Yoga. Kshetra means a field, like you see a farm, where a farmer is plowing the field, sowing the seeds, growing the crops. Kshetra means a field, a place. Kshetragya means the one who knows it, the knower. The one who knows is the knower of the Kshetra, just like a farmer. Farmer knows his farm very well, what kind of soil it is, what will grow, what will not grow, how much time it takes to grow, how much water and irrigation he has to do, at what season he has to sow what crop, when he has to harvest, everything he has to know. Just like he's got in and out knowledge of this field. You must be wondering, is this a BSc in agriculture class or a spiritual class? I am actually giving you a recap of chapter 13, so it is a spiritual class. This chapter theme is Kshetra, is you, your body, what you call yourself, your mind, your emotions, attachments, desires, thoughts. Everything together is Kshetra, the field. So what is happening in this field? Sow a thought, reap an action. Sow an action, reap a tendency. Sow a tendency, reap a habit. Sow a habit, reap a character. Sow a character, reap a destiny. That's what we say. Every time we sow a thought, a good thought, we sow in our mind, it turns into a good word. A good word translates into a good action. A good action translates into a good habit. When a good habit develops, our character becomes good. And when our character becomes good, we reach a good destiny. This is the idea. In this kshetra, if you sow a seed of goodness, good results will come. And if you sow a seed of evil things, evil results will come. This is the idea of kshetra, kshetra. Okay, this must be clear. Because definitely, if I get up and think something wrong the whole day, that is in my mind. I say something wrong, I do something wrong, and at the end of the day, I made myself a worse person when I woke up. Same thing. If we start on a good note, think good things, do good things, what happens at the end of the day on a good note? That's why we start with the day with prayers, meditation. So start well, and we have a good life, and we are good for ourselves and everybody around us. This is the idea of Kshetra, Kshetragya, Vibhaga. We want to know what is the field, what is this mind, which we sow the thought, perform action, work, and who does it? Kshetragya, who knows it all very well. You must say, I know it. But in this chapter, Krishna is going to say, Krishna is the knower. So what is the acronym? WISE. Wise questions, items of knowledge, soul and supersoul, and Enjoyer. Wise questions. This section starts with 6 questions that Arjuna has asked. What are these? 2 P's. He said, what is Prakriti? What is Purusha? Third one is, what is Kshetra? Fourth one is, what is Kshetragya? Fifth is, what is Jnanam? And sixth is, what is Nayam? Krishna described these 6 topics that Arjuna is asking him to describe. In Shloka 2 to 7, Krishna is describing the 2 Ks, the Kshetra and Kshetragya, and some part of Jnanam also. Here Krishna talks about Kshetra, individual body and individual soul, being a Kshetragya. So Kshetra is individual body and Kshetragya is individual soul. In Shloka number 3, he made it clear that I am also the Kshetragya, that is Paramatma, or the Supersoul is also the knower of the body. Now after this, in Shloka 4 to 5, Krishna is promising to explain the topic of Kshetra and Kshetragya. And at the end of the section, the last 2 shlokas, 6 and 7, is talking about how this entire material body, Kshetra, the material body is made up of 24 material elements. What are these? 5 are Panch Mahabhutas, which is earth, water, fire, air, ether. And then 5 senses, the knowledge acquiring senses. What are these? Eyes, nose, ear, tongue and skin. And then the 5 working senses. What are these? Speech, hands, legs, anus and genitals. And then the 5 sense objects. What are these? For eyes it's a form. For ears it's a sound. For nose it's a smell. And for tongue it's a touch. And for tongue it's the taste, and for skin it's the touch. And now the 4 subtle things. What are these? Mind, intelligence, false ego and unmanifested 3 modes of material nature. So in total 24 elements are in this. In this way, our entire gross body and subtle body is made up of 24 elements. And 25th element is Kshetragya, that is the individual soul. And the 26th element is the Supersoul, the Paramatma. Items of knowledge. Here Krishna is going to take us through the process of acquiring knowledge. There are qualities that is mentioned here. I'll explain some of them. Humility, pridelessness, non-violence, tolerance, simplicity, freedom from entanglement with children, wife, home, detachment from general mass of people, acceptance of importance of self-realization, and so on. So total 20 process of knowledge are given here. Krishna made a point here. Anything apart from these 20 qualities is ignorance. One of the key take out of this section is anyone who takes to devotional service, that is unalloyed devotional service to the Lord, all these qualities will automatically manifest. They don't need to do an extra endeavor, since true knowledge is revealed within the heart of a deserving person. So the real method of acquiring knowledge is cultivation of these divine qualities, of which humanity is the foremost. Soul and Supersoul. In this section, object of knowledge is spoken about. First, Krishna is describing the individual soul, and elaborately he discussed about the Supersoul. Individual soul is spirit, is beginningless, and it is subordinate to Krishna or Paramatma. And what about Paramatma? Wherever his hands, legs, eyes, heads, faces, he has ears everywhere. He's all pervading. And then in Shloka number 15, he said, it is unattached, still maintainer of all the beings. He transcends modes of nature, and at the same time, he's a master of all modes of material nature. He's subtle, he's beyond the power of material senses. He appears to be divided amongst the living beings, but he's never divided. Also, he's a maintainer of every living entity. In this way, different qualities are mentioned. And at the end, Krishna said, who can understand all these concepts? Only one category of people. My Ananya Bhaktas, my devotees. They can understand all this. Kshetra, Kshetragya, Neyam and Jnanam. Enjoyer. In this section, Krishna is talking about Prakriti, Purusha and their union. So we've seen this now, the material nature which makes up this body and two Purushas. One Purusha is one, that is we, the living entity, and the individual soul. But we're not the real Purusha. Real Purusha is the Paramatma, the super soul. Living entity is the cause of various suffering in the world, whereas nature is the cause of all material causes and effects. Living entity in material nature thus follows the ways of life, enjoying the three modes of material nature. And this is to what? Due to association of material nature, and because of this material nature, he meets with good and evil amongst various species. He takes different body. Finally, towards the end of this section, Jnana Chakshu is mentioned. A person who has got a clear vision, he can see things as they are. Every entity is a combination of Prakriti and Purusha. Everything that we see around is a combination of Prakriti, which is the material nature, and the living entity, the individual living entity. Later on, it mentions a true seer vision of Jiva, Prakriti, and Paramatma is mentioned. So now that we understand quite clearly how the Jiva, the individual soul, and the super soul, they are all different. Then we also understand how individual soul and the body made up of different material elements are different. And how material body, which is made of material elements, and super soul, they are different. So in this section, it is clear that what is clear is that the individual soul, super soul, and Prakriti, they are three different entities. And at the end of the section, the non-doership of the soul is spoken about. That a material body does everything. And what does the soul do? Soul is just an entity which desires, and the body works according to the three modes of material nature. And in this way, Krishna has given a very wonderful philosophical overview of material nature, individual soul, and super soul. Message from Gita is very simple. Always think of Krishna and don't forget him. But then in some point where Gita is analyzing this nature of universe, God and us, then it becomes a little bit complicated. And therefore, when we're reading Gita, we should never lose patience. Krishna is explaining the entire universe. And to understand this in few readings or listenings, maybe a little bit ambitious, isn't it? It takes time. And also, it takes devotional service. Only when one serves can understand this knowledge. So many things in this chapter and the future chapter of Jnana section are inconceivable. We shouldn't lose patience, and even if we don't understand, there is still some transformation is taking place within our hearts. Let me tell you a story. I'll tell you a story. Once one saint, he told one of his disciples, I want you to get some water. And he gave him a bucket. So the disciple ran to the river and he got the water. But there were holes in the bucket. So as he was coming back, by the time he came back, the bucket was empty. The Guru said, I told you to get some water. The disciple said, but the bucket has holes in it. So the water escaped. The Guru said, do it again. So the disciple went, and this time he ran back faster. But still, it emptied out. The Guru told him, do it the third time. This time he tried to catch the rickshaw back, but it still escaped. Then the disciple became very frustrated. And I'm trying to bring the water back, but it keeps escaping. The Guru said, relax. Actually, I just want the bucket to be clean. So sometimes when we're reading and listening, and the knowledge is going in one ear and out from the other, and sometimes we read one page and by the time we go to the next page, we can't remember what we've read the last page. But still, it doesn't matter because the heart is becoming cleansed. Just like the water escapes, but the bucket becomes clean, our mind sometimes, the knowledge might not stay, but the heart will become clean. This is it for me. We'll cover chapter 14, the 3 modes of material nature, in my next video. Hare Krishna.